My inspiration to write this book has to do with empowering. It has to do with understanding how to function through a separation. The reason why my father, and he didn't give me up, I didn't realize that I was walked up to an orphanage. I want people to understand what it looks like when you are in a position when you don't have the tools around you, when things may not go your way. But the toughest part of with my oldest son, Kate, is he never got to experience me at the table. I felt that I wanted to make sure there was enough food, and I eat last or I'll go without. Oh, my grandmother, wow, man. Tell me, we call it licks. Oh, we got more cocktails than you can think of. But she gave a structure. You're gonna have to endure a little bit of pain. The same pain that I'm sharing with you. Pain. When you go through pain and you endure the pain and feel that pain, that's when your success will come.
He is one of the most influential men Baltimore soccer has ever known, and his reach extends way past the playing field.
Yeah, but for more than 30 years, he's lived with a secret that he is now sharing publicly for the very first time in detail with ABC2 News.
The life book of David Bascom. David, we've discussed in detail some of the work and history in chapter 1. But now is the hard part. Let's talk about your abuser.
And good evening and welcome to this Wednesday edition of the Island Stat Sports Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin, and joining me is co-host Jason Juggling J. Ford, and our guests this evening include David Bascom, Tommy Harrell, and Paul Mittermeier. No strangers to Bermuda. People will get to know Tommy Harrell. The ones that don't know Tommy from Bermuda will get to know Tommy this evening. Jay, I'm excited. I'm excited because we get an opportunity to share David's first chapter message in something that he's been working on for quite some time. It'll be a life journey, and we're hoping to take people through this first chapter of this book that Tommy has worked so hard on, and Paul, who will be the person that will ensure that the message that is going to be portrayed is out there in the public eye, in the media, and so forth. And of course, the man himself, David Bascom. Your thoughts?
Well, first things, good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Good evening, guys. Let me talk about David. And I know, we've had this relationship for a while. I really consider him as a Bermuda onion. So as you know, as a Bermuda onion, it's sort of round. So it reminds me of his stature of his head because, he's a slim person, but his head. But inside his head, it peels back many layers. But when you get to the core of it, it's actually raw. And hopefully tonight we get to hear some of the raw stories because a lot of times people only see the outside layers of David. Very inspirational, very encouraging, very animated, rather than a coaching capacity, rather it's a teaching capacity, rather it was just sitting around a table capacity, very animated. So tonight I think you'll be able to get into the raw side of, we call it our Bermuda onion, David Bascom.
Well, let's jump right into it. David, welcome. This book, Your Life, many people know certain parts of it. There's a lot of gaps. And this book hopefully will be able to bring all the pieces together. But but working with Tommy, you've known Tommy since university days. You guys went to school together, but working with Tommy on your life story, how has that worked out for you thus far?
Yeah, let me just take some time to kind of let you know about this young brother here, and he is a brother to me, right? Many may have known is when I'm talking to young people and I tell them my experience of Anderson College and going to college, right, on a football scholarship, and that's where the lack of tools started. Yeah, I only thought I was going there to play this game. Tommy is also a top class athlete, was in the baseball scholarship. And what happened was that it was crazy how these things aligned each other in that time in my life. Anderson College I wasn't focused on using that college as a vehicle to move through education. It wasn't even a vehicle to move through football. It was a vehicle that allowed me to escape something. And I mean, this young brother here, Tommy, I mean, when I first met him, and it's so funny because I will have to kind of Tommy had this charisma about him, right? He was into acting, he did but he always had and let me be honest, Tommy hung out with some beautiful young ladies, right? So I'm like, this guy seems cool, right? I'm like, so it's we just connected because he's an athlete. But what he had is some things that I had missing, and he was always trying to hey, brother, you got to keep yourself out of trouble. You got to help me with my papers and really try to mold me, right, to help me, give me some tools. I wasn't a very good listener, so as Tommy found out later, as you'll know more in the book, is that I got myself in some trouble. He's just finding out. He wasn't with me. I tell people the story about the pizza. I kind of had to. I was hungry one weekend, and I was so hungry, and I had to. I found a way to get pizza from the pizza guy. I kind of, I basically kind of robbed the pizza guy a little bit for food, not for money. But Tommy's, it was amazing because these are the things that, I was jumping into this college. Tommy supported a lot of things that I did, and when we start to communicate, when you got those friends, especially when you don't have to call every day, right, or every month, but when you do make that connection, it's like you just picked up where you started. And when I was talking about the things we're doing and my legacy, Tommy was just right on it, right? He says, David, man, we gotta pull this together. And he really brought it. He gave me the confidence to say, you know what, let's do this because the greatest value of my life is my legacy. And Tommy was able, I felt so comfortable. And after a long time, we've just been this brothers, but it really was comfortable. And I was also ready. I've been ready to have this discussion for a long time, but I wanted to make sure it was delivered in the right format and the right way. I didn't want people to look at my life and feel sorry for me. I wanted to make sure, so when he came up and he was talking about, man, I got it. And he says, red card. I'm like, wow. And I'm like, wow, just plain short, right? And it was pulling all these layers apart. But it's been tremendous, man. It's been great. It's been an emotional journey in such a short time. But we're moving because we're thinking the same, because he has the same passion for young people.
Well, Tommy, let me ask you, you met this young guy from Bermuda, talented footballer, but very raw in knowing what college life was going to be about. What did you see in David initially, and the fact that you kind of try to help him as much as you could whilst at Anderson?
Well, you know what? David tells that story all the time, that I'm the only person, that helped him. But, David helped me quite a bit himself. We became fast friends for two reasons. Number one, when you go to a university, college or a university, and you're a scholarship student, they kind of own you, the coaches do. So they really try to shape everything that you say and do, from your academics to what you're actually doing on the field. So David to me was a cool guy. I was all academics, I was all bookworm, but I was very, very much an athlete. So I had that going for me also. So David just kind of gave me a little bit of street cred. I had absolutely none. So actually being a friend with the coolest football player on campus, that was win-win for me, because those pretty ladies that he's talking about, they would actually be interested in me then, because I was friends with David.
Another way to spin it, huh? Or you spin it
and of course, the voice of the ISL in Bermuda and many other commercials in Bermuda. Paul, working with David and what you do in the Maryland area and Baltimore with so many different sports, your role in helping to promote this new venture, how do you see yourself fitting into this?
Well, I'll tell you what, Earl, before we start, I got to tell you that on my Facebook page today, the memory popped up from 12 years ago. It's the Union and the Storm in the ISL championship game again. So it's hard to believe it's been 12 years for the ISL. But yeah, I mean, it fits for me because, as you mentioned, here in Baltimore, I work with a foundation that helps at-risk and abused children. I've been with them for 15 years. And anybody that was in Bermuda that saw me down there, that sees my situation, I'm an amputee. And, I've always took it, because I was able to overcome what I was able to, I took it as my responsibility to help other people that were in that situation as well. That's my responsibility now. And that's exactly what we're talking about here with what David's trying to accomplish with telling his story and telling what he went through when he grew up. So I'm definitely on board. I'm hoping that I can use my connections with sports up here in the United States, NFL, soccer, everything, to be able to spread the word. And not only that, but also with our connections in the Courage Houses here in the States with the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation. We have 26 Courage Houses that help at-risk and abused children here, that we can help spread that message to them as well and get that done.
Now, Jay, I'm going to come to you because you would have seen the trailer, the opener. Your initial thoughts looking at that just before we started?
Powerful, intriguing. I mean, for many years I've known David. We're going to talk about some things, but then some things we're not going to talk about. And we all have our journey, and it's always nice to know and learn from somebody, because I think that's the most important part of this whole process. Is sometimes we stay silent for so long and not realizing we could be inspiring the next person who may be going through the exact same thing we're going through or something similar. So watching that trailer, I'm getting a sense of that. And David's very inspirational, as we know. I just think, Earl, the many years that he did the soccer camp here on the island. So just think about all those kids that have came through. It was 10 plus years, maybe 12 plus years. At what, 100, 200, 300? Easy. Times that by 10, 12. You start looking at numbers. How many times David's been in the schools? And I'm pretty sure none of them they don't know this story. And they might have been going through the exact same thing. So this is what I'm very anxious, and I can't wait.
And Earl, if I may jump in, that's how it really all came together. When this story broke years ago, I literally just called David to ask him, not to ask him any questions, because I didn't know if he was ready to talk about it, okay? I just asked my brother, David, are you okay? And he said he was fine. And it was a lot going on. And that really is the last time I spoke to him about this situation. Why? I didn't know it when we were on Marsh Foley Road when we were 18 years old in Bermuda for that summer. I didn't know about it then. But I tell you, when that story broke, my mind was flooded because I was on Marsh Foley, an American kid, on Marsh Foley with David that summer. And I already, told Andrew, my props go to Andrew Bascom, who literally had a strange kid in his house, a best friend of his brother in the house, and now he's got to take care of another kid. And as it turns out, Andrew took care of everybody on the block anyway. So my hat goes off to Andrew that he took care of a strange kid in his house for a summer. So that's really how this book really came together. Years later, maybe 6-7 months ago, I got in touch with David. I went, David, you know what? I'm an administrator. I train kids. I mentor kids. Let me tell you, it's time to write your biography, and let's make an educational and wellness piece. Let's connect it to it. Let's call it Red Card. Yeah, see that? There's that football analogy. Just because you get a red card, in life, it doesn't mean game over. It's actually game on. And when I said that to him on the phone, he sparked up. The first chapter was written within like a week or two after a few interviews. That's how organically and quickly it came together, because we were both locked on this idea of not only telling the story, but really giving service to our community and to help children that are underserved.
Definitely. Well, we're going to break down this opening segment of this chapter when we come back. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to play a part of that intro, and then we'll discuss. Especially, Tommy, I want to get to you about how you were able to pull certain things out, because some people want to open up but are unsure whether or not to open up, and we know David likes to talk, so how difficult it was to pull it out. But we'll be right back. Shake your head.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants, and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
My inspiration to write this book has to do with empowering. It has to do with understanding how to function through a separation. The reason why my father, and he didn't give me up, I didn't realize that I was walked up to an orphanage.
David, that first part, take us through that time. You mentioned you didn't realize you were walked up to an orphanage. What was going through your mind as a youngster then, thinking about it now?
Yeah, what's interesting is that I had this conversation with my father and has watched it over, and I wanted to make sure is that, I can only say things from my eyes, right? And at the time I was 4 years old. That was my first memory. And I, am well aware that many things had to happen before then. My father taking me up, going into the room, signing the papers, right? But my memory wasn't that, right? My memory was when, and my father was telling me is that I guess my first memory was the time when he always picked me up. Always picked me up. I remember this clear as day, go and get like fish sandwiches down St. David's. And I come up and I'm always at the bottom of the hill, and he was so comfortable. It was such an environment for him that he felt so safe. It was a safe place that he put us in, right? But I remember just walking up that the hill just seemed like forever to get to the top, right? It was like a journey. It was like, and I'm like saying to myself, why remember that so clearly? Why that part so clearly and nothing else? But that part, that piece of information, but I remember just like, as I'm going back, I going up the hill and I can feel and see the young people around me. And it was just like, wow, it was crazy because it was like, I was happy because for me, it was like, wow, if my father has put me here, this gotta be what family looks like. So that what the Sunshine League, man, they really saved some young people and supported some young parents that was moving towards their careers, right? It was an awesome holding place. But no, it was, as I was going through and Tommy, when we was asking the questions, and I remember this, it was like, I just felt like it was free, right? I'm going in this blank canvas. It's like, I'm just going, this is awesome. I get to do my own thing. And that even those times I remember like the voices of, hey, that's my brother, right? So obviously that had to be, Andrew Harvey, my sister Robin, but that's what I remember. And it was, when I go back, I think of how powerful that moment is, right? Because that's all I have. I have a baby picture to show you. I have that memory, and I always think, why is that memory always stuck there? But the power also of the support of the Sunshine League. I mean, so powerful for the month of young people that was there.
Jay?
David, let's go back a bit because I also grew up around the same area. I went to school at Delwood, and Dave was a lot older than me, but I went around the same area. But I will say that if you look at Delwood, you call it Central, Prospect, a lot of kids came from families where, as kids, we thought they were families. That was our perception of it. Even if it was just one parent, that was still just family. Whether it was our grandma or somebody else, that was still family. We didn't know any difference of two parents or this and that. And we had the youth center that I'm pretty sure David, Mr. Golden and everybody, and that was another family, what we call an outside family, because I listened to the promo. And it's talking about what we call licks or cocktails.
Yeah, you had to get fingernails, get your own switch.
But, they said it takes a village to raise a child. Well, let me tell you something. If you went around the wrong passage and one of those people in the external families caught you, you got licks from those external family members before they sent you home. But my question is to you, David, and growing up, especially with young kids, and kids can be very blunt, be very cruel. When they know that you come from a disadvantaged situation, when they know about, David's this or David's that, how were you able to not only block it out, if you blocked it out, or did you keep it in? How were you able to manage? Because we know kids can be very cruel when their mom or dad picks them up or at the school function, your dad's not there or your mom's not there. Like, how were you able to keep that out?
That's a good question. Me and Tommy, when we was going through this book and writing and going through the chapters, when you come through something and it becomes your natural norm, there's nothing wrong with it. When that's all you know, it's the best thing in your life. There is nothing to hide or to be ashamed of. And what I'm saying to you is that when you're not like used to a family mode, the Sunshine League was my family. So I didn't know what people may have been talking about. So you see what I'm saying, right? So I wasn't old enough to experience the displacement from a natural father and mother together, right? That was what it looked like to me. So when people may have said things, I couldn't even recall. I never paid it any mind. It was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But those 20 young people up there, that's all my brothers and sisters. That was what I was used to. It was as we start to do the journey and I start living with my grandmother, I start understanding what the family molding should look like. And that's when I start becoming closer to my siblings because we start doing things and protecting each other. Right? I don't know if that makes sense, but it's crazy because, and then again, I don't remember people talking about me because, you know, one, it's many of us was in that situation. And that's one thing we didn't do, right? When we're talking about supporting each other and we're talking about the 21st century mindset, this book is about let's go on the journey, but I'm not trying to bring the past forward. I'm trying to get some supporting tools and to help support you in the journey. See, it's okay to talk about the things that you went through because that's how we move. I want people to read the book. I want them to watch the documentary, and I want them to go through their life, and I want them to be comfortable, feeling uncomfortable in the uncomfortable position. Feel comfortable being uncomfortable when they're having these conversations to move young people, because that's how they trust. That's what this is all about. So that's where it's at. I'm going to stop talking because this is what this means, right? This is what this is, and this is what it's not a show. This is a journey, man. This is a journey.
But see, Earl, see this man talks so eloquent now, right?
Right.
This wasn't happening back then.
No.
And it amazes me now because just David overcoming his speech impediment.
Right.
Yeah.
Who would ever know now that he's a public speaker?
I was, it's so fun. It's so as you say that, I was telling some young people that the young man, he felt so bad. I felt so bad for him because he says, Coach, why are you using your hands? I said, oh boy, I gotta actually tell him why, right? And this is how I'm able to control my impediment because it allows me to flow. And there are times, man, that I've been stuck. I mean, if you was back in the day and called my house and I got to answer the phone, you know, we had to answer the phone, Bascom's residence, and I will pick up the phone, Tommy, I'm telling you, it's crazy. I pick up the phone and the words would not come out, click, and they would feel that I had the wrong number. And even my brother, Andrew, you know, he helped me a lot. He tried to get me into reading, right? But I really had to do a lot of work. And when I was in even college, hanging with Tommy, I mean, Tommy was a great speaker. Tommy was into acting as well. And he would, so I'm really like, it's very dramatic. I'm trying to figure out these things. And I was learning so much in this journey. But my hands is what controls. So a lot of people say, no way you have a speech. Catch me. And you know, Paul's probably seen it at some point in some of the interviews, I'll get stuck. And because I don't have control of my language and I couldn't move. And somebody has to bail me out who knows me. They have to bail me out or something. Yeah. So it does happen, but I'm really under control a little bit by using my hands.
Mm-hmm. Tommy, sitting across the segment we just saw, that broken down segment we just saw, sitting across from David and hearing him, hear the tone of his voice, the expression of sorts, how did you visualize him back then as he's speaking?
I was blown away, Earl, because remember, I was the go-to one, not only for David, but for Albert, Philando Hill. I made so much money in Bermuda, in college, writing papers and helping these guys through things. And then I'm sitting across from David at Apricity Studios in Baltimore, and I'm just in shock at how he has learned to master and structure his language. And this is something that I did naturally. I did, drama and poetry slams in the high school. So naturally, I just kind of took it along with me, along with my athletic abilities to university. So I was really impressed and amazed at how he has adapted to restructure his mindset to take control of his language and how he speaks and how he emotes to get things out. I mean, he surprised me with things to where I had to go back and edit chapter 1 that I had already written before we did that sit down, the video that everybody has seen that has been released. So I had to literally go back and do 2 or 3 edits because there were so many phenomenal things that he did live in this shoot that really needed to be added to chapter 1. And in addition to that, he mentioned about walking up the hill and his first memory. In chapter 1, we really get to see the literary substance and the beauty of what Bermuda is. We bring every color. We bring his skinny, short legs at the time as a little kid going up that big hill. We get him in like, where's daddy? Kind of being alone, adding some literary substance to that. But to echo and answer your question, I felt like he was open and ready to finally tell this story when I sat across from him.
Definitely. But we're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to play another part of the promo to Red Card.
We're spotlighting our old friends Woodstock Farms, who started up 50 years ago in the belief that we need more trustworthy natural food sources. Starting with one product, their line, mostly certified organic, is now more than 250 strong in 10 categories. This month we're featuring accoutrements of the barbecue, for us the pinnacle of home cuisine and one of the few forms of restorative recreation now within our reach. Try Woodstock Organic Sweet Relish, Tomato Ketchup, Baby Kosher Dill Pickles, Sauerkraut, and Hickory and Original Barbecue Sauce. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
I want people to understand what it looks like when you are in a position when you don't have the tools around you, when things may not go your way. But the toughest part of with my oldest son, Kate, is he never got to experience me at the table. I felt that I wanted to make sure there was enough food, and I eat last or I'll go without.
David, take us through that, because people only would have seen when you would have started to play football. After college, you're trying to get a pro career going, but there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of struggle, and behind the scenes, a lot of people, I guess, outside your family wouldn't have known what that struggle looked like.
Yeah, Earl, I went through, when I was going through this time, it was such a crucial moment. And the power of this game saved me. I went through anxiety. I remember waking up one day and I was 14, 15. I want to take you back because it's all relative to everything else. I remember just going through this anxiety and just couldn't function. Didn't know if I was how am I breathing? And it all transferred. I had a lot of insecurities, about my size. I was so frail. And I would never wear shorts during the summertime. I was going through a lot of self-esteem issues, right? And when I look at this journey and I was trying to piece together, why am I this way? Why is my greatest value of my life my legacy? Why do I drop everything to help young people? Why don't I sleep? Why do I walk around like it's the last day and I'm trying to complete something? Why am I empowering people, right? Why don't I just focus on me and that's it? Then in that piece, when it says how to function, doing things, the ability to function when things don't go your way, the ability to function when you're short. the ability to function when it becomes that time when I can easily have an excuse for why I should not move any further. See, the opportunity that we all have is the opportunity to have a voice. That's how I looked at life. It wasn't about a result. It was about an opportunity. When I was going through playing, everything was an opportunity, the opportunity to have a voice, to be dedicated to something, to strive. Then when I realized my sacrifice for success was greater than my want because the upbringing that I had, and it drove me to move everybody. I always put myself last. And in that little piece, and I'm talking about my son, it's so strong to me, and I have to mention that because there was a place when he had to play short of his father not being in the household with him, but not being there with him. And I apologized to him many times, and we do it a lot, and I wanted to make sure there was clarity. And I told him I'm sorry. Also, there was a sense of making sure that everybody was okay. I remember times at the table, it was like, come on, eat. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. You just eat, and whatever is left, take it on. And there's some times where I was hungry. I mean, I just looked at that food and thought, man, I just want to plow this right now. But it became such a norm. It was like a trained behavior. And watching through the Sunshine League, I was picking up these little things. They took care of us. And it was my job to help take care of others. And that's okay. You know, and people like, ask him, it's okay, sit down and relax. I said, I am okay. You know, and that's where that piece all around. And I am in a place where this game has been such a powerful moment for me and tool for me that I'm able to share and be comfortable sharing. And it is okay. When I was young, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that as a young Black man, to go through and tell you who and what I was going through. No. But that's what I'm hoping, that I'm able to have young people and older people and support groups to read this book and watch this documentary and to feel that energy and that power to be able to, you know what, open up yourself, right? And let some people in, and it's okay.
Yeah. Paul, it's important that we talk about this part because the media play a very, very important role in athletes and well, let's say popular people's lives, because here we have David talking about his life experiences when he was a youngster. Some will take the negative part and really go in on it. How do you plan to ensure that the message stays the way David and Tommy want it to go, where it's to show someone that's going through it now that they're not alone, they haven't been through this by themselves, and a way to come out?
Sure. It's the most difficult now because we're hearing what David went through as a youngster and what he had to deal with as far as the abuse is concerned. So it's important to stay on message, and that message is that, yeah, that happened, but look at what David's accomplished and look at what he's been able to do in overcoming that, and sending that message to all those youngsters out there that maybe, you know, are sitting there and have been through that same thing, that can look up to David and go, wow, you know, that's something that he was able to accomplish. Now I can accomplish that too. And it's very important. And I've stressed this to David and Tommy both, to make sure to stay on message of, this is what this book is about. This is why we're doing this. And really, that's the message you have to send. And really, the object here is to try and help as many people as possible. If one person is sitting here watching this today and benefits from this, that's a victory. The object is to get millions of people to join in the message and help them and do help as many as we can. But you know what? We're going to try as hard as we can to help as many people as we can.
Jay?
Just listening to David talk just now and just brought back something. David, I'm pretty sure you can probably agree with me. During those early years, even with the abuse, we know that's very taboo in our society, especially here. And we played football every day. from right out of school to when the lights came on. So to hear you using the game that we love to escape the reality what you was actually living. But now to see the journey now be totally the opposite. Use the game that you love to actually help empower and tell everybody about what happened. And I think hopefully that comes along with this message in this book, because you can see how the game means so much, but it can do so much as far as growing inside. I mean, back in our day, you either about girls, we either did bikes, we raced bikes, pack race, or we was into sports. And that got us away from the reality of home life or even school life. To know that you got the opportunity, and you know, David, some kids never got the opportunity to escape. How has it been now for you to look back on it? I don't know what you say, would you do anything different, but just looking back at that time, how are you looking at it now? What would you tell a young person now as you're looking back on it now?
It's not so much what I would tell young people, because young people will trust by default. It's what I would tell adults. We have to be very mindful and start listening more. We have to give our young people put them in a position where they can trust you. Don't be afraid to open up to them and kind of like expose a little bit of who you are. See, I never had that. If I was around people that was going to expose themselves for who they are, it may encourage me to probably open up. See, because when I didn't see something, I didn't know where to go. Today, we have a lot of support groups. But see, we don't just go walk there. We can't just go, little people's not just going to walk there. They need to be comfortable with somebody. And the only way they're going to connect with you if you share with them. And you don't have to go through experiences that they're going through. Little people know when you are coming short on who you are, you know. They figure us out very quickly. Let's go through one of the biggest concerns that we had with education, because I put myself in education and even talking to educators, was engaging. The power to engage and to connect with little people. Even with coaches, the power to engage to get the information across. Even with CEOs and employers, the power to engage. See, people bond with you when you come a part of who they are, right? And that's my message to. I cannot sit here and tell a little person, no, go, you talk, you got to speak and open up. No, I can't do that. No, because they're going to do it in the time when they're comfortable. My fear then was, what would people think of me? What would they think if I tell them that I'm going through this? What would they say, and what would they change? And that was my fear. And I have many other fears when you're going to book, but there's many others. This book is going to take you, when I tell you, on a journey But guess what? The awesome thing, and Paul, to your point, this book isn't about the abuse. Let me be clear. Your first 2 chapters is going to be your heavy, but the empowerment comes after that. And we're talking about when Tommy put this crown on this chair, this velvet red chair, and he says, do you know what that means? And he's on me. I said, I know, I better not get this wrong because I'm sure he's going to be on me. He says, do you know what that means, Bascom? I said, yeah, it's a crown. It means power. It means like, he says, keep going. And he wouldn't let me, and I'm going to keep going. And when I didn't say the word, but I got around to like being in control. He says, yes, that is when you have now reclaimed. We want people to read the book. And when you get past chapter 1 and 2, it's about reclaiming your life. It's about taking back on what's yours. And this is the thing, the book is about opportunity. See, it's not about football. It's about opportunity that was created for me to learn how to be a businessman and still working on how to be. It's teaching me how to be a father and still working on it. It's teaching me how to be a friend and still working on it. It's giving me the opportunity, and I want to share the opportunity. So this is a tool. And that's what it is. And to Paul's point, you are right, Paul, because we don't want it to be that direction. I don't want nobody sitting here be like, oh, red card, you got to read that as David's story. And we are going deep in this chapter 2, damage. Oh, no, we're going deep. And I said, I was stuck on words that I feared to use. Tommy, correct? Tommy says, we have to go
That's
there.
That's correct.
I was writing the 2nd chapter, and I could not write this word down. I was replacing it to something that was more subtle. I sent it to Tommy. Tommy says, oh, no, you will put that word there. And it's amazing. And the power of the language. And I was so, I felt like, wow, I don't want people to. Oh, he said, oh, no. This is what it's about, because in chapters 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, oh, the party is on, young people. This is where you get a chance to grow. This is when the game is on and game starts, because this is when I'm in the chair, wearing the crown and reclaiming. I want you to reclaim what's yours. But it's taking nothing from us no more. Okay, Earl Bays is looking at me.
Tommy, you wanted to mention something earlier. I don't know if you remember what you was going to say.
Sorry, Tommy.
Yeah, David really said it all. I couldn't have said it any better. And he's right. You know, I've always let my brother off to be safe, but he knows he could always tell me something when he was ready to tell me. That's just a part of brotherhood, being there and supporting your friends and still going through it and being a better friend. I think writing this book and kind of not necessarily forcing him, but allowing him to really get it off his chest real time in real words in very colorful language. That's what's real. Kids need to recognize when they have to tell an adult something, they don't need to sugarcoat what is happening to them. They need to be able to say, Mama, Daddy, this is what's happening. And what better way to lead by example for him to show that part of himself, and just one kid reads that or one adult reads it and recognizes, well, wait a minute, I should be listening to my son or my daughter more because something could be happening. That's where we're going in chapter 2. And, you know, I guess we'll talk about it after commercial, because I need to tell you how difficult it was for me to collaborate with David and write that chapter. It got so emotional. David will tell you, I mean, that's the poet in me again. We had to shut down writing for a week because I was really messed up in the head, interviewing Andrew, interviewing people in his life, and having to relive this thing that I was kind of hearing for the first time when I heard about it years ago, but hearing it real time was really quite painful that would happen to my friend.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take that commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to have that segment that you were just described with David Bascom.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
Of David Bascom. David, we've discussed in detail some of the work and history in chapter 1. But now is the hard part. Let's talk about your abuser.
It's the look, the stare, the having to face reality, I would imagine, reliving something. Tommy, what did that look say to you whilst you asked him that question?
That look said to me, okay, I'm ready to talk about it, and it's probably going to hurt. Now, Earl, what Bermuda probably doesn't know, what you don't know, is I remember on Mars Folly, David was dating, I won't say the girl from St. George's, who he was dating at the time, but I remember Candace Fogo. I remember, yeah, that was his girlfriend. So pretty. I love that, Candace. But she took me all around the island while David was training with this very guy that we're talking about in this book. She's the one who was my tour guide, so to speak, during that time. So when I brought it up to him, that look was, okay, I'm going to talk about it, and it's going to be upsetting. And when I tell you, Earl, you know, Jason, it was an upsetting thing to talk about. But once again, this book is about more than just David and his biography. This book is about helping the community and giving people tools when something happens to them. How do you respond when tragedy and adversity happens to you? So we had to go there in chapter 2 because it's what the truth is. And what's the light? Just tell the truth and let people sort it out the way they may. Tell the truth, and you could be helping someone in that process. Tell the truth, Earl, Jason, even when it hurts you, just tell the truth, because that's really where the light is. It really is where the light is.
Definitely. Now, David, obviously, when you spoke to Tommy about this book, and I'm just learning a lot more about Tommy in this conversation, that he wants to keep it real. He wants to be straight. He wants to be, if you're going to tell your story, you're going to tell your story. That reality of how you were writing it, but not putting down the word, not putting down certain words, to try and sugarcoat a little bit or soften the blow. When he kind of directed you to say, listen, this is how it's got to be. How did that make you feel?
Uncomfortable. And like I said earlier, I had to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable if I'm looking to help.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for not putting the word down and writing it, it had nothing to do with the experience I went through, but the protection of little people.
Mm.
And when he explained to me is that, no, you cannot protect the little people if you're pulling back from them, because that's going to be their voice. They have to be able to speak this when they're going through this, right? Even when the last question, when we said, let's talk about the abuser, it wasn't the look that I was giving. It wasn't my hurt. It had nothing to do with me anymore. It has to do with the thought of young people going through this. others hurting. That's the look. The sacrifices that I made, and that's how I look at it. You know, nothing can change. But to relive this process, I'm now thinking of another young David going through this, another young, you know, a little girl going through this. I'm thinking of this, right? An older person going through this. I'm going, and that's what's taking me. So I have to now make sure that I'm delivering when I'm having this conversation in this part 2 in this documentary, is that I have to make sure I deliver and not be afraid to let the protection go. So we get to experience the real time. You get to experience everything that I went through. And you will see. Do you know, I'm going to share this with you, is that the place, and every weekend, and going through this majority every weekend for like 6 or 7 years, you know, I never went back to that place but 4 years ago. You know, a taxi was trying to take me a shortcut to go over through this. I said, oh, no, you don't go. No, we go around. And that's the impact. Because as crazy, it wasn't so much as that I wanted to relive it for me. I don't know what I'll do if something, if anything, a little person, like, I don't know. And that's where I'm at in my life right now. And I'm so protective, and Tom has given me the okay that I'm going to have to now release and be uncomfortable with releasing to help support others, right? I'm going to have to be comfortable with it. And I am okay with that. Because my fear cannot be my mind killer. I have to overcome my fear, right? It cannot take it away. And that's what I'm learning here. So I'm learning a lot with going through this.
Jay?
I mean, obviously therapeutic. Anybody that goes through this, it's therapeutic. But David, you know, even before getting to the red card, even before we get to chapter 2, what was the catalyst to say now's the time? Because this didn't happen yesterday. What was the catalyst to say, you know what? I need to tell the story. Even making the announcement a few years ago. What was the catalyst? Because you've been holding this inside quite a long time. What was the catalyst? Anybody see you off the field, they say David Bassum's successful. He don't need this, he don't need that. What was the catalyst now to say, you know what? It's time. I feel comfortable now. What was the catalyst?
Being a leader. Being a leader is very important, to make sure that people not only follow you for what you do, they don't only follow you because you have a relationship with them. You're going to have to connect. Being a leader was so strong with me to be able to, and before I can be a finished leader, a pinnacle leader, I had to be able to deliver a message of who I am, so there becomes a trust. I had to be able to now share so other leaders can grow. If I'm a leader, I have to make sure that I'm showing results and reproducing other leaders. This means is that I'm going to have people trusting me. I'm going to have to be able to now have the ability to not only share, but develop an empowerment and a toolbox that's going to help somebody else. See, leadership goes very strong with me. When you're greatest, see, some people's greatest value may be their family. This doesn't mean I like my family less. I love my family. Some people's greatest value could be money. My greatest value is my legacy. I feel that everybody is put here for a reason, and this leadership role and taking this on, I felt it was time. I felt it was time to make sure that there was clarity. I wanted to make sure that the voice that I'm leaving behind, because we're not here forever, I wanted to make sure that I'm able to empower with this message. I wanted to make sure that I'm able to connect with more people, with my players, with my communities, right? And when was the right time? like when it is, right? And it just felt right. Paul Mittermeier has been in my journey for so long. Paul has helped supporting me and still supporting me. The time is right. The opportunity is there for me to have a stronger voice. Listen, nobody promises. We cannot promise tomorrow. And Tommy explained, what are we waiting for? What am I waiting for? Win more championships? What am I waiting for? See, I always wanted to have a final task and a book. And who would have thought that it's still football, but it's generated? I wasn't coming out with a football book and saying, I'm a pro coach. No, that's not. Everybody's writing books. My life has a little bit more. It has so much depth in it. No, come on. The indoor game is not a worldwide process, but it's football, and it's saved me. It doesn't have to be the game, Many young people have safe places. It could be art, it could be drawing, it could be dance. That's what I'm trying to get here, right? You better embrace the safe place and use it for a vehicle for opportunity. That's it was crazy, man. It was like, yep, this is it. Probably because I'm also getting older, and Earl continues to remind me, yeah, Earl, I know you're on 57, 58. So I think that 51 now, I have to kind of figure these things out, right?
You gotta tell people my age, man.
So Jason, but now it's time, because you don't get it back this time. Yeah, and my brother's here that's on, like, Paul don't realize the depth of what him being a part of this has been huge for me. Tommy being like and guiding me through this, and I'm telling you, it's awesome. I'm so excited. I mean, I got so much stuff, but this is what drives me. This is what drives my pro players. This is a part of the drive. This is why I wake up, to help people. And this is a part of that tool to help others.
Yeah. Paul, you've been on this journey with David for a very long time. What are some of the things that kind of inspire you, or he does or says to inspire you to keep going on the path that you're on as well in helping young people back in Maryland?
Well, I don't want to freak anybody out, but they talk a lot about soulmates and people connecting, and I know there's a reason why David Bascom sat next to me on the plane. We were leaving St. Louis, and there was a 19-hour delay. We were still on tarmac for 5 hours, and David sat next to me that day and said, hey, I have this binder that's about this thick of my idea for starting a soccer league in Bermuda, and I need somebody to help me. And I was thinking about you, and I'll never, ever forget that day. And it's been amazing. And, you asked what inspires me. Every time I listen to that man speak, he inspires me, because him and I are on the same wavelength of trying to help other people. That's, a lot of times you search for things in life and you try to understand your purpose in life. And I think David and I have found that, in that my purpose, and I believe David feels the same way, his purpose is to help as many people as we can while we're here. And so from that aspect, I would run through a wall for that man any day. Anything he needs, he's got it. I mean, that's how I view our relationship, and it's a truly amazing relationship. It's been truly amazing. David, what is it? Is it 15 years now? 16 years? Is that what it is?
16 years. And what have some bumps and bruises, Earl? As we know. As we
those are the stories, Dave. Those are the stories that we all cherish, right?
We got some scores, Earl and Jason. Tell me, I'm telling you, we're gonna have those conversations. We will not talk about them right now. Oh yeah. But it's been a great journey with Paul, and I know that time is ticking away for us to complete this show. But I'm gonna let you know, both know, and Bermuda know, and everybody who's listening, is that Tommy, you have been, a driving force. And to this, now you probably like, oh, and you're like, call me every day. Earl, that's the worst thing he can tell me.
So true.
So true. Hey, what's up? What's up, my brother? And I know he's busy, right? It's a principal. He's got everything set. He says, hey, yeah, right. I said, you got 2 minutes? He's like, yeah, I got time. And I know that he's busy, but when you tell me 2 minutes, I'm taking 7, right? And I'm like, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I hang up. Then I'll think about something else. And all I said, he told me call him anytime. So I'm calling him up again. And you know what? And he jumps right into conversation. And it's such a kind of a great relationship kind of pushing this. And the one thing, Tommy, and you would agree, you know what I said to him? I said, listen, he says, well, David, I don't have to be a part of I said, oh, no, there's no ghostwriters Ron here. I said, oh, no. You are a part of this book. No ghostwriters Ron here. No, Tommy, you are part of this book because you've been a part of my life in this journey, right? So we had to agree, and that's because I like to kind of, no, Tommy, no, that's a great idea. We'll go with that. So it's great because I'm really learning as well.
Yeah. Tommy, I had to ask you, having known David, I wouldn't say lost touch, but now reconnected. What are some of the things that stand out for you about David that gives you the encouragement to kind of team up and get this book accomplished?
Well, number one, the sign of a true friend is when you don't always have conversations, but when you start that conversation, it's as if we were having this conversation back in 1988 when we were besties in college. David, it's the Bascom's are my first original Bermudian family. I've been in Bermuda quite a bit from the time I was 18 years old until, I'm 1 year older than David. Like, it's been years. Bermuda is home to me. It really, truly is. And honestly, so what really stood out with me about David at the time, he had become a better father, a better person. He had become one of the most structured people that I've ever met in my life. He is constantly talking about service, okay? And constantly talking about structure. Then where Paul, David, and I align, anything that involves helping other people, particularly our young people, you can count me in. I've been doing it in a career for 20 plus years. Is what I think God designed me to do, is to help other people and mentor them, and just service is everything. So David stood out because the growth that I witness real time has been what the big vision that I had planned for him and his shenanigans when we were in college. The shenanigans were now gone and a structure was in place, and I was just proud. I tell you, we shed a couple of tears, believe it or not, through those videos that people don't see, because I'm like, David, I always knew you had this in you, man. Just keep doing what you're doing. So Earl, that's really what I saw. I saw growth that's been exponential, and whatever he's doing to make that work for he and his family and his young people and his players and the people that he touches with his platform, I needed to be a part to support his dream and what he wanted to put together. And he said that I didn't want to be a part of the book. It's because, I've got my additional Bermudian family there. I've got Antonori and Antrell. These are my beautiful godchildren who I practically helped raise from children. They're Bermudians. I want them to see that their Uncle Tom is working with David. This is one of his closest friends, but he's also not just celebrating the work that David has done in his biography, but we're celebrating people in the Bermudian community to help and provide service to not just young people, but to anybody who we can touch with this empowering message.
Jay, I'm going to let you have the last question.
I don't even have no more questions. I just want to say, Paul, Tommy, David, I salute you guys. And David, I really just want to say thank you, because, we may hear these stories or see these new documentaries on Netflix, but when it's one of our own, it really hits home. And to hear these stories that somebody that you know, you rub shoulders with, we've laughed, we've joked quite a bit. I'm still up until today, we're still joking. But to hear this story, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to not only read chapter 1, but 2, 3, 4, 5. How many chapters you got? You said 9, 10. I mean, because it's giving me a thirst for more. This hour is going by so fast, and I need more because I'm so intrigued. I mean, I thought I knew,
Well, that's the big question, right, Earl? Earl, are we back next month for chapter 2?
We are back next. I was just going to say that. We are back next month for chapter 2. When we're ready to release chapter 2, we will be back. Because obviously, once that chapter, we're talking about the chapter 1, we want to put that one to bed and then really open up about chapter 2. I think a lot of people will be intrigued with that. And then, of course, each time that a chapter is released, we're going to do this because I think it's important that you guys get to express how it all came about. To release it and David's message, and we can break it down again and have him explain just those things, because for people, I think they need that extra stuff. And the way Jason just said, you guys, you have to salute what you're doing, because the message is, if you're going through it, you're not alone, and there is a way out. And just look at someone like David, who has turned a negative into a strong positive, and that's the message that he wants to get out in his book. That good things can come out of trials and tribulations. But you have to be willing to speak about it. You have to be willing to face it and go through it, and then you can come out on the other side. So definitely next month, Paul, you're booked. How's that? How's that? Well, gentlemen, I do want to thank you very much for your time, and we're going to end tonight with the chapter 1 trailer. Enjoy your night, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My inspiration to write this book has to do with empowering. It has to do with understanding how to function through a separation. The reason why my father, and he didn't give me up, I didn't realize that I was walked up to an orphanage. I want people to understand what it looks like when you are in a position when you don't have the tools around you, when things may not go your way. But the toughest part with my oldest son, Kate, is he never got to experience me at the table. I felt that I wanted to make sure there was enough food, and I eat last or I'll go without. Oh, my grandmother, wow, man. We call it licks. Oh, we got more cocktails than you can think of. But she gave a structure. You're gonna have to endure a little bit of pain. The same pain that I'm sharing with you. Pain. When you go through pain and you endure the pain and feel that pain, that's when your success will come.
He is one of the most influential men Baltimore soccer has ever known, and his reach extends way past the playing field.
Yeah, but for more than 30 years, he's lived with a secret that he is now sharing publicly for the very first time in detail with ABC2 News.
A life book of David Bascom. David, we've discussed in detail some of the work and history in chapter 1. But now is the hard part. Let's talk about your abuser.
And you can get more about Red Card at www.redcardbook.com. Good night.